Hey everybody, I wanted to do another equation. This one hopefully is a little bit easier than the one I was doing yesterday. And it's 8x to the second plus 8x plus 15 equals 0. And I want to do it two different ways. One is by completing the square, and the other is by factoring. So for completing the square, I need to do a couple of things. I'm going to rewrite the equation. So for completing the square, what I like to do is first, move the 15 to the other side so that it cancels here and I get a new equation, x squared plus 8x equals negative 15. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add something to both sides of the equation. Question is, what is that something? So there's a trick. We did it different ways, but the quick trick is to cut this in half and then square it. So 8 divided by 2 squared. 8 divided by 2 squared, that's 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. That's what goes in the box. So we're going to add 16 to both sides of the equation to keep it balanced. Now, we've got a new equation again. But this one here factors. To factor this on the left, I go what number times itself, what two numbers multiply to give me 16 but add to give me 8? That's what I'm looking for. That's 4 and 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 plus 4 is 8. So it factors like this. Then over here, I get 1. But x plus 4 times x plus 4 can be written like that. And that is the part about completing the square. Well, to solve this equation then, what I do is I take the square root of both sides, and the one on the right, I'm going to write as positive or negative because it could be 1 squared is equal to 1 and negative 1 squared is, negative 1 squared, is equal to positive 1. Two different answers. Well, that's going to give me two different equations. So this becomes just x plus 4 equals 1, or x plus 4 equals negative 1. Two different equations from this. Then you solve each of those equations. Subtract 4. X is equal to negative 3. Over here, subtract 4. X is equal to negative 5. That's my answer. Two different answers, negative 3, negative 5. I'm done solving this. Now, is this the best method for this equation? So in your essential assignment, that's what you're supposed to do. Take an equation, solve it, show the steps, and then explain why you think that's the best method. Maybe you think this is. And actually, if this number weren't 15, I would say maybe it is the best. But the thing about the 15 and the 8 is I could have factored this from the very beginning, because I had to do these steps here, then get down to this new polynomial, then factor it, then do more steps. But if I could just factor it in the beginning, it goes quicker. Does it factor? Well, 3 times 5 is 15. 3 plus 5 is 8. That's going to make it easier, I'll show you. So if all that's equal to 0 and it's factorable, I think factoring is easier. If this were a 17, though, it'd be different, because then you would have a negative 17 here. Then negative 17 plus 16 would be negative 1. You don't want that. You would have an imaginary number, which we're not learning. Let's say this was 5. This for 5, this would be a negative 5 plus 16, which would be 11. Square root of 11 is not a whole number. So the square root of 11 is 3 point something. And then you would still have this, but it would just be, instead of equal to 1 and negative 1, it would be 3 point something. And you would still get it. It would be a decimal, but I would say this would be easier maybe. But let's look at the same problem when we're factoring. And I'm going to do it on GeoGebra so we can play around with some things. So over here in GeoGebra, got the same equation, and I've got to think about two numbers, we already talked about this, that multiply to 15 but add to 8. That's 3 and 5. When I do that, I can factor right away. And it factors really easily when there's nothing in front of x squared. You don't need to do the diamonds and the boxes and stuff. You could, but you don't need to. So x plus 3 times x plus 5, because 3 times 5 is 15 and 3 plus 5 is 8. Well then, if x plus 3 times x plus 5 is equal to 0, the zero product property says that one of those two factors has to equal 0 also. So I get two equations. Those two equations are x plus 3 equals 0 or x plus 5 equals 0. And I solve each equation. Subtract 3 from on the left and subtract 5 on the equation on the right. Those are my answers. Same answers as I got before. Just I think the factoring was quicker. So if you want to write that solution down. So let's go back to the chalkboard. So again, what I would say then is just that there's always different ways to solve these. The trick for this assignment, and I'm not taking off points if you pick a method you think is easier and I have a different method I think is easier. My goal here is for you to solve these and then just try to explain why you picked that way to solve it. You're going to do that. There's 8 questions. You're going to do that for as many as you can. Show as much work as you can. I'll be fair when I'm grading it, and you're going to turn this in by tomorrow. I'll see. Maybe I'll have another example for you tomorrow morning. But let me know if you have questions. Thank you.